Hello, everybody. Let's talk about some starting pitchers. So let's talk a little bit about innings projections for starting pitchers. I initially started out to write this piece that I am going to be referencing here to look at the volume that pitchers are going to get over the course of a season, much like I did with plate appearances and pitchers. I kind of thought, well, let's take a look and see if the number of innings that a pitcher throws can maybe be sneaky good. And it turned out, as I was digging in, that for the most part, pitchers who throw a lot of innings do that because they're pretty good. So there's not as much of that discrepancy as you're going to get with hitters. So I did do a little bit of a zig and a zag. You can see in the piece, there's a lot of data, there's tons of tables. So go ahead and check that out for all of the specifics. But what I'd really like to do is jump into what the conclusions were that I was able to draw. So I broke the data down into four different groups. The groups of pitchers who are projected by Steamer projections to go 185 plus innings pitched in 2022, then 165 to 184 innings pitched. The next group, 150 to 164, and then 140 to 149. I did run a poll on my Twitter to ask people where their threshold was, and there were a lot of people who looked at 150 innings as kind of that level where you would still consider that to be a good season. And so I included the 140 to 149 in the piece because those are projections. And so maybe somebody who's projected to throw 148 innings like Clayton Kershaw or 148 innings like Corey Kluber is going to outperform that projection and get themselves above that 150 inning threshold. So, uh, here are the pitchers that I think we should be paying attention to. The first group of pitchers that I'm going to talk about would be what I've called the duh class, as in, duh, you like these pitchers. Garrett Cole, who is starting pitcher one off of the board as of right now. Steamer projects 199 innings, ATC 192. Walker Bueller's SP4 off the board, Max Scherzer SP5, Brandon Woodruff SP6, Zach Wheeler SP7, Shane Bieber SP9, and Julio Arias SP10. All of these pitchers projected to throw over 185 innings. You don't need me to tell you these are good pitchers. Here are some notes that I have included in the article and maybe worth paying a little bit of attention to. Zach Wheeler is projected to be the league leader in innings in both Steamer and ATC projection systems. He is SP7 off the board. Shane Bieber, who is coming off of an injury from last year, does seem to be affecting his value quite a bit. He is projected by Steamer to have the seventh most innings pitched in 2022. ATC has Scherzer and Bieber throwing the same number of innings. Also worth noting that when we are talking about pitchers coming off of the board, relief pitchers, closers are going really early. The workhorses are Liam Hendricks is the 10th pitcher off the board. Josh Hader is the 11th. And Julio Arias is the 12th. The next group that I am talking about, I'm calling high volume, high interest. These are pitchers that might be worth a slightly longer look. People that might be perceived as being just a guy, and you know what? Maybe they will be, but worth taking a look. The first is Adam Wainwright. We know that he is 40 years old. Anytime we talk about somebody who's 40 or north of 40 as a baseball player, we have to consider that age in terms of our investment. But in 206 innings last year, 206 innings last year at 3.08 ERA and accumulated 3.8 FWAR. He is projected a little bit differently in the two systems. Steamer has him at 194 innings, ATC 170, but at the 75th pitcher off the board, coming after pick 200, if he is able to achieve those innings pitched projections, may be worth a flyer at that point. Herman Marquez is another guy that can be very tough to nail down. Last year, his road numbers were actually worse. Historically, his road splits, home road splits, have benefited his road work. He does pitch in cores at home. Um, if he is somebody that potentially is on the move once the lockout ends, he is definitely somebody worth paying attention to. He did have a 4.40 ERA last year, but his FIP was 3.86, his xFIP 3.64. So there is a little room for hope there, and worth paying attention to. The next on this list, Luis Castillo. He had a really rough first half of the year. His first half ERA was 4.65, but his second half ERA was 3.18. So if you're worried about whether or not Castillo's going to have a bounce back, it already happened. He already did that in the second half last year. He is currently going at pick 88 in NFBC, and he could really return much more value than that. Marcus Stroman is another one that should probably be on your radar. He is leaving New York. He is headed to the Cubs. Steamer gives him 188 innings next year, and that is a potential solid return for the 182nd pick overall as he is going now. In 2019 and 2021, his F4 was 3.9 and 3.4 respectively. He had a 3.02 ERA last year. That may come up, that may regress a bit, but even mid threes, I think you would take that from where he's going around SP 68. And he's going to be pitching in the NL Central now instead of the NL East. So that's good for him. A couple other names here. You can see the specifics in the article. Chris Bassett and Erod. I cannot wait to see what Erod is able to do in Detroit, getting out of the American League East. He had a rough go with COVID, developed myocarditis. Last year, probably still not at 100%. So I'm really excited for him to go to Detroit and show everybody just how awesome he can be. All right, the next segment that we are doing here is called Lower Volume, but still duh. The first pitcher here for lower volume, but still a duh, is Corbin Burns. We don't need to go into all of his stats and details. We know Corbin Burns is awesome. Last year, he threw 167 innings. He's projected for 174 with Steamer, 169 with ATC. He won the Cy Young with 167 innings. So it is a little bit of an issue, maybe in a quality start league, that he averaged just under the 6-inning threshold per start. If he had gotten just one more inning per start, he would have been up around 195 innings. I don't think that he's going to suddenly be in that 180 plus inning volume category. But you want Corbin Burns. The next pitcher in this category, Freddie Peralta, same team, same sort of situation. Milwaukee does not let their starting pitchers go too deep into games. He's projected for 163 innings by Steamer, 160 for ATC. He's a strikeout guy. He had 12.16 K per nine last year. In 2020, it was 14.42. He comes off the board around 55th, so you're going to have to plan around getting him, but his stuff is nasty. He had a 4.0 F4 season last year. He pitches with Corbin Burns and Brandon Woodruff. It's a heck of a team. You want Freddie Peralta. The next pitcher to talk about here is Jacob deGrom. He's SP8. And we all know what the concerns are. We also all know how amazing Jacob deGrom can be. Steamer has him for 152 innings next year, ATC 146. I would draft as if you're going to get 130 and then just be very pleasantly surprised if he outperforms that projection. But all that said, he accumulated 4.9 F4 in just 92 innings last year. He had an ERA of 1.08. His K per nine was 14.28. My goodness, we all know Jacob deGrom is awesome. He is a total duh, even if he is going to have limited volume next year. And the final pitcher that we're talking about here is Clayton Kershaw. Maybe not quite as much of a duh for you. He does seem to be kind of a duh for me where he's going. Steamer has him for 148 innings, ATC 133. But even though he might not make that 150 inning threshold, we all know what he can do when he is healthy and he is pitching, even though he is a little older. He comes off the board around 184. To me, that seems like well worth taking the shot, especially in a 12-team league, which is what I based all of this on. All right, the last category here, other pitchers of interest. I did this in the piece a little bit like news and notes, so I'm just going to kind of give you some names, and you are welcome to check out the details in the article itself. First, Logan Webb, very nasty stuff. Steamer has him for 189 innings, which would put him tied for 13th most in Major League Baseball next year. I don't think it's a super bold prediction for me to say I think he's going to be a Cy Young candidate next year, especially if he can come anywhere near that 189 inning projection. The next guy is Zach Gallen. I can't quit Zach. Maybe this is a me thing, and maybe you're out, and I that's fine. He wasn't great last year, but he did still have a K per nine over 10. Steamer's got him for 178 innings, and if he gets there, it's probably because he's having a great year. And man, I really hope he has a great year. Justin Verlander, also 38 years old, coming off Tommy John. Steamer projection of 175 innings. That may be a little bold. ATC has him for 136. So definitely worth paying attention to the discrepancy there. You're going to have to really look at what you think is most likely in terms of the outcome. If he gets to 175 innings, that's pretty exciting. If he only throws 136, maybe not quite as much. So understand the wide range of outcomes there before you go ahead and pick him, but certainly interesting. Ian Anderson is another one of my favorite arms. His price of 153rd off the board ish depends upon the day and the specific data that you're looking at, but past 150. This might be the last time you're going to get him at that price. He has got some really electric stuff. He had a mid-threes ERA and 128 innings pitched last year. There may have been a little luck involved, but I also think that there's some growth that we need to anticipate for him. I absolutely love Ian Anderson. His K per nine last year was just 8.7, which is not going to blow you away for sure. But in his minor league appearances, he's shown that he's more than capable of an 11 plus K per nine rate. Noah Syndergaard, very interesting. Steamer has him for 163 innings in 2022. That would be amazing. If you believe Noah Syndergaard's going to throw 163 innings next year, you should be in on him. Again, this is another pitcher where there is a significant gap in the projections between Steamer and ATC. ATC has him for 137. That feels a little more closer. Feels a little closer to reality. At that level, maybe not quite as exciting, but if you believe he's got that Steamer projection of closer to 163 innings in him, that's definitely somebody you should have on your radar. Same for Luis Severino. Steamer has him for 156, ATC for 122. If he can get to 156 innings, that's pretty amazing. That probably means he's having a really good year. At 122, late round flyer in a shallower league where you can more easily go pick up some talent to replace him if it doesn't pan out. That's okay. Much more exciting if you were to tell me that he was guaranteed to throw more than 150 innings next year. The last couple pitchers in this piece that I talk about are Alek Manoah and Joe Ryan. They're young. The big idea here is that the projections don't show them throwing a ton of innings. So either they're going to have limited innings in outings across the year, or they might have some inning limitations. So they get shut down as the year goes on. So temper your expectations in terms of innings and production, but they definitely are exciting arms.